The medical bill trembled in Emma's hands like a death warrant. $200,000. The numbers blurred through her tears as she stood in the sterile hospital corridor. Fluorescent lights buzzing overhead like angry wasps. Her grandmother, Rosa, lay dying 3 doors down, and this piece of paper held the power to save or condemn her. "Miss Rodriguez," Actor Martinez approached, with that careful expression doctors wore when delivering devastating news. "Treatment options." Emma's chest tightened. She had been dreading this conversation for weeks, watching Rosa grow weaker while the bills multiplied like cancer cells. The woman who had raised her since childhood, who had worked 3 jobs to put Emma through school, now fought for her. Life in that sterile room. "The cancer is aggressive," Dr. Martinez continued gently. "Without immediate treatment, she has perhaps 2 weeks. The surgery and chemotherapy could save her, but the cost is substantial." "I'll find the money," Emma whispered, though the words felt hollow. Her 3 part-time jobs barely covered rent and groceries. She had already sold everything of value, borrowed from every friend who would listen, and been rejected by every bank in the city. That evening, Emma dragged herself to the Grand View Hotel, one of the city's most exclusive venues. She had been hired through a catering company to serve at their monthly charity gala, where the wealthy gathered to write tax-deductible checks while sipping champagne that cost more than Emma's monthly salary. The ballroom glittered with crystal chandeliers and gold accents. Women in designer gowns worth more than Emma's annual income chatted casually about their latest vacations to Europe. Men in $1,000 suits discussed business deals like they were planning weekend barbecues. Emma moved invisibly between them, refilling glasses and clearing plates. She was furniture to these people, useful but unnoticed. Tonight that anonymity felt heavier than usual. Every laugh, every casual mention of expensive purchases reminded her of the impossible gap between their world and hers. "Champagne," she offered to a group of women dripping in diamonds. One of them glanced at her briefly before continuing her story about renovating her 3rd home. Emma might as well have been a ghost. As the evening wore on, Emma's exhaustion grew. She had been working 18-hour days, rushing between the diner, where she served breakfast, the office building where she cleaned at night, and catering gigs like this one. Her feet ached in cheap dress shoes that were falling apart, and her smile felt painted on.
"Oh."
During a brief break, she stepped onto the hotel's outdoor terrace. The city sparkled below, full of life and possibilities that seemed forever out of reach. She pulled out her phone and called the hospital. "How is she?" Emma asked when the night nurse answered. "About the same, honey. She's been asking for you." Emma closed her eyes, fighting back tears. Rosa was the strongest person she knew, but even strength had limits. The thought of losing her was unbearable. "Tell her I love her," Emma said, her voice breaking slightly. When Emma returned to the ballroom, the atmosphere had shifted. Conversations hushed as someone important entered. She looked up to see a man who commanded attention without trying. Tall, broad-shouldered, with dark hair and piercing blue eyes that seemed to see everything. His black suit was perfectly tailored, and he moved with the confidence of someone who owned the world. "Sebastian Cross," she heard someone whisper. "The tech billionaire. He's worth billions." I had heard the name but never seen the face. Sebastian Cross was a legend in business circles. It's a man who had built a technology empire from nothing and was known for his ruthless business tactics and ice-cold demeanor. Magazine articles described him as brilliant but heartless, a man who could destroy companies with a phone call and never lose sleep over it. He walked through the crowd like a shark through water, people parting automatically before him. His presence was magnetic and intimidating in equal measure. Emma was refilling champagne glasses at the bar when she felt someone watching her. She looked up to find Sebastian Cross standing directly in front of her, his intense blue eyes fixed. On her face, up close, he was even more imposing and strangely beautiful in a dangerous way. "You look tired," he said, his voice deep and smooth. The unexpected comment caught Emma off guard. "I'm fine, sir. Can I get you something to drink?" He studied her with unsettling intensity, as if he could read her life story in her face. "You're not like the others here." Emma forced a professional smile. I'm just here to serve drinks. Mr. Cross. Sebastian, he corrected. And you are? Emma, she replied, wondering if she should have given a fake name. There was something predatory in his gaze that made her nervous. He leaned closer, his voice dropping to barely above. Whisper, Emma, let me ask you something. What would you do for $1 million? Emma's hand froze halfway to a champagne bottle. Excuse me? Sebastian's lips curved in what might have been a smile, but there was no warmth in it. $1 million cash. What would you do for it? I don't understand, Emma stammered. Looking around to see if anyone was listening, the question felt like a trap. It's a simple question, Sebastian continued, his eyes never leaving hers. Everyone has a price. Everyone has something they would do for enough money. What's yours? Emma's mind raced. $1 million would save Rosa's life and solve every financial problem she had ever had. But the way Sebastian asked the question, the predatory gleam in his eyes, made her stomach churn. I should get back to work, she said, trying to step away. Sebastian moved slightly, blocking her path without seeming threatening. You're desperate, aren't you? I can see it in your eyes. Something's eating you alive from the inside. His words hit too close to home. Emma felt exposed, as if he could see straight through her carefully maintained composure to the fear and desperation beneath. I don't know what you're talking about, she lied. Hospital bills, Sebastian said quietly, and Emma's face went pale. When you love is sick. You're working yourself to death trying to save them, but it's not enough. It's never enough. Emma's hands shook as she set down the champagne bottle. How could he possibly know? Had he investigated her somehow? I make it my business to understand people, Sebastian continued, reading her thoughts. Especially people who interest me. What you, Emma, are very interesting. What do you want? She whispered. Sebastian reached into his jacket and pulled out a business card, pressing it into her palm. His fingers were warm against her cold skin. One night, he said simply, one evening with me. Do that, and I'll transfer $1 million to whatever account you choose. Your grandmother will have the best medical care money can buy. Emma stared at the card in shock. The implications of his offer hit her like a physical blow. You're talking about buying me. I'm talking about saving a life, Sebastian interrupted. Your choice is simple. Your pride or her life.
Right.
What matters? More? Emma felt the world spinning around her. The noise of the gala faded to a distant hum as she processed what he was asking. It was impossible, unthinkable, degrading. But it was also Rosa's only chance. Think about it, Sebastian said, straightening his tie with casual indifference. But don't think too long. From what I understand, time isn't something you have in abundance. He walked away, leaving Emma standing frozen at the bar, the business card burning in her palm like a brand. Round her, the party continued, as if her world hadn't just been turned upside down. Emma somehow finished her shift, moving through the motions like a robot. The business card felt heavy in her pocket, a constant reminder of the impossible choice she faced. When she finally left the hotel, dawn was breaking over the city. She drove straight to the hospital, her mind spinning with Sebastian's words. In Rosa's room, her grandmother lay sleeping, looking fragile and small beneath the white sheets. The machines beeped steadily, the only sound in the quiet room. Emma took Rosa's hand, feeling how thin and cold it had become. This woman had sacrificed everything for her, working multiple jobs, going without so Emma could have better. Now it was Emma's turn to sacrifice. I don't know what to do, abuela, she whispered in Spanish, using the childhood name she hadn't said in years. Rosa's eyes fluttered open, focusing slowly on Emma's face. Mia, she said weakly, you look tired. I'm okay, Emma lied, forcing a smile. You worked too hard for this old woman, Rosa said, squeezing Emma's hand with what little strength. She had promised me something. If I don't make it through this, I want you to live your life. Find happiness. Don't waste your youth on regret. Emma felt tears threatening. You're going to be fine. I'm going to make sure of it. Rosa studied her granddaughter's face with knowing eyes. What are you planning, Emma? I can see it in your eyes. You're thinking of doing something foolish. Emma couldn't meet her gaze. I just want you to get better. Not at the cost of your soul, Mia. Promise me. But Emma couldn't promise that. Not when Rosa's life hung in the balance. Not when a devil in an expensive suit had offered her a way out. She kissed Rosa's forehead and left the hospital with Sebastian's business card clutched in her hand, knowing that by nightfall, she would have to make a choice that would change everything. 3 days passed like a nightmare for Emma. She carried Sebastian's business card everywhere, pulling it out dozens of times only to shove it back into her pocket. Rosa's condition worsened with each visit. The doctors spoke in hushed tones about limited time and making her comfortable. Emma sat in her tiny apartment, staring at her phone. The number on the card seemed to mock her from the coffee table. Outside, rain pelted against the windows, matching the storm in her heart. Her phone buzzed with a text from her best friend Carmen. The fundraiser only raised $3,000. I'm so sorry, Em. Emma closed her eyes. $3,000 might as well have been 3 cents. She had exhausted every option, begged every favor, and still came up empty. The insurance company had denied the claim twice. The hospital wanted payment up front for the experimental treatment that could save Rosa's life. With trembling fingers, she dialed the number on Sebastian's card. I was wondering when you'd call. His smooth voice answered on the first ring. I need to know exactly what you're asking for, Emma said, her voice barely steady. Meet me tomorrow. Night, 8 o'clock. I'll send a car. The line went dead before Emma could respond. The next evening, a black limousine arrived at Emma's apartment building. The driver, a professional man in his 50s, opened the door without a word. Emma climbed in, wearing her only decent dress, a simple black one she had bought for job. Interviews. The drive took them outside the city, to an exclusive area, where massive estates hid behind iron gates. They stopped at a mansion that looked like something from a movie. All glass and steel jutting dramatically from manicured grounds. Sebastian met her at the door, looking devastatingly handsome in casual clothes that probably cost more than Emma's rent. His dark hair was slightly tousled, and without his business suit, he seemed younger, more human. He said, studying her face. I need the money, Emma replied bluntly. Let's get this over with. Something flickered in Sebastian's eyes. Surprise, perhaps, or disappointment. Come in, we need to talk first. The mansion's interior was stunning, but cold. Expensive art hung on walls that had never known the warmth of family photos. Everything was perfect and impersonal, like a museum. Sebastian led her to a sitting room with floor-to-ceiling windows overlooking the city lights. He poured himself a glass of whiskey, but didn't offer her one. Tell me about your grandmother, he said, settling into a leather chair across from her. Emma frowned. That's not why I'm here. Humor me. Despite herself, Emma found herself talking. Rosa raised me after my parents died in a car accident when I was 8. She worked 3 jobs to keep us afloat. She taught me to cook, to speak Spanish, to believe in myself even when the world said I wasn't worth much. Sebastian listened intently, his blue eyes never leaving her face. She sounds remarkable. She is. She's the best person I know. Emma's voice cracked slightly. I'm about to betray everything she taught me to save her life. You think this makes you a bad person? Emma laughed bitterly. What do you think? Sebastian was quiet for a long moment, swirling the whiskey in his glass. When I was 12, my mother sold me. The words hit Emma like a slap. What? Not literally, Sebastian continued, his voice emotionless, but close enough. She married a man who didn't want children around, so she sent me to boarding school and pretended I didn't exist. The checks came monthly, but she never visited, never called. I was an inconvenience she paid to have removed. Emma stared at him, seeing something raw and painful in his expression. My father had died when I was 10. Cancer, actually. Ironic, isn't it? My mother couldn't handle being alone, so she chose a new husband over her own son. I learned early that everyone has a price, and love is just another transaction. Is that why you made me that offer? Emma asked quietly. Because you think everyone can be bought? Sebastian's smile was cold and sad. I know everyone can be bought. The only variable is the price. You're wrong, am I? You're here, aren't you? Emma felt heat rise in her cheeks. I'm here because someone I love is dying, And you're rich enough to save her, without even noticing the expense. That doesn't make me corrupt. It makes you cruel for using my desperation against me. For the first time since she had known him, Sebastian looked genuinely surprised. Most people were intimidated by his wealth and power. Emma was angry at him for having both. Cruel, he repeated, as if tasting the word. Yes, I suppose I am. It's easier than being vulnerable. He stood and walked to the window, his back to her. Do you know what it's like to have everything money can buy, but nothing that matters? I can purchase companies, politicians, even people, but I can't buy genuine affection. I can't buy someone who looks at me and sees more than dollar signs. Emma watched him, seeing something broken in the set of his shoulders. So you decided to prove that everyone is as empty as you feel? Sebastian turned back to her, his expression unreadable. Something like that. What happened to you was terrible, Emma said softly. But it doesn't give you the right to hurt others, doesn't it? Sebastian's voice was bitter. The world taught me that people are commodities. Why shouldn't I treat them as such? Because you're better than that. Or you could be. Sebastian laughed harshly. You don't know me, Emma. You don't know the things I've done, the lives I've destroyed in the name of profit. Then why are you telling me all this? Sebastian was quiet for a long moment. When he spoke, his voice was barely above a whisper. Because for the first time in 20 years, someone looked at me with anger instead of greed. You're not impressed by my money. You're disgusted by my offer. Do you have any idea how refreshing that is? Emma stood, crossing to where he stood, by the window. Sebastian, what do you really want from me? He turned to face her, and in his eyes, she saw not the cold billionaire, but a lost boy who had never learned how to trust. I don't know, he admitted. I thought I did, but now I'm not sure. The admission hung between them like a bridge neither knew how to cross. Outside, the city lights twinkled like stars, beautiful and distant. Inside, two damaged souls stood facing each other, each carrying wounds that ran deeper than either had imagined. Your grandmother, Sebastian said suddenly. The treatment she needs. I'll pay for it. Emma's heart leaped. What? No strings attached? Consider it a gift. I don't understand. What about your offer? Sebastian's smile was sad and genuine for the first time since she had met him. Forget the offer, Emma. Some things shouldn't be bought, and some people shouldn't be for sale. I'm sorry it took me this long to remember that. Emma stared at Sebastian in disbelief. You're serious? You'll pay for Rosa's treatment without wanting anything in return? Dead serious. Sebastian pulled out his phone. Give me the hospital's billing department number. I'll have the money. Transferred tonight. Emma's hand shook as she recited the number. Within minutes, Sebastian was on the phone with the hospital's financial director, authorizing the full payment for Rosa's treatment. When he hung up, Emma felt her knees give out. She sank into the nearest chair, overwhelmed. She whispered, Why would you do this? Sebastian sat across from her, his expression softer than she had ever seen it. Because you reminded me of something I thought I'd lost forever. The ability to feel shame for my actions. I don't understand you, Emma said, wiping tears from her cheeks. 1 minute you're making disgusting offers, the next you're saving my grandmother's life. Neither do I, Sebastian admitted. I've spent so many years being ruthless that I forgot what it felt like to be human. You changed that in one conversation. Emma looked at him, really looked at him, and saw past the expensive clothes and cold demeanor to the broken man beneath. What happens now? Now you go home. Your grandmother gets her treatment. You never have to see me again. The words should have brought relief, but instead, Emma felt an unexpected pang of loss. And you? What happens to you? Sebastian shrugged. I go back to being Sebastian Cross, billionaire ice king. Nothing changes. Everything changes, Emma said firmly. You just proved you're capable of kindness. You can't pretend otherwise anymore. One act of decency doesn't erase a lifetime of cruelty. No, but it's a start. They sat in silence, the weight of the evening settling between them. Finally, Sebastian stood. I'll have my driver take you home. Sebastian, wait. Emma rose, crossing to where he stood. Thank you. For Rosa, for everything. I'll find a way to repay you, don't. Sebastian's voice was sharp. This isn't a loan. It's not a business transaction. It's something I needed to do for my own soul, assuming I still have one. Emma reached out, touching his arm gently. You do? A damaged one, maybe, but it's there. Sebastian looked down at her hand on his arm, as if the simple touch was foreign to him. Emma, I need you to know something. Like the things I said about everyone having a price, about love being a transaction, I was wrong. What you're doing for your grandmother, the sacrifices you're making, that's real love. I've never experienced anything like it. It's not too late, Emma said softly. You could learn. I wouldn't know where to start. Start with forgiveness. Forgive your mother. Forgive yourself. Sebastian's laugh was bitter. She's been dead for 5 years. Cancer, just like my father. I never got to tell her how much she hurt me. Then tell her now. Tell her spirit. Tell the wind. Just let it go. Sebastian studied Emma's face, as if memorizing it, you're extraordinary, you know that? In a world of people trying to impress me with their sophistication, you impress me with your heart. I'm not extraordinary. I'm just desperate. No, Sebastian said firmly. Desperate people do desperate things. You chose to sacrifice yourself for someone else's benefit. That's not desperation. That's love. Emma felt tears threatening again. I should go. Rosa will be wondering where I am. Sebastian nodded, but neither of them moved. The air between them crackled with unspoken possibilities, the recognition of two souls who had found something unexpected in each other. Emma, Sebastian said quietly, if things were different, if I were different, do you think... Don't? Emma interrupted. We're from different worlds, Sebastian. This moment, this connection we have, it's beautiful, but it's not sustainable. You know that? I know, Sebastian agreed, but his eyes said otherwise. I just wanted to imagine for a moment what it would be like to be worthy of someone like you. You are worthy, Emma said, her voice breaking. You just proved it tonight. But worthy doesn't mean compatible. You need to find your own path to healing, and I need to focus on Rosa. Sebastian stepped closer, close enough that Emma could smell his cologne, could feel the warmth radiating from his body. Can I ask you one favor? Emma nodded, not trusting her voice. When your grandmother is better, when life settles down, would you have dinner with me? Just dinner, nothing more. Emma hesitated. Every rational part of her brain screamed that getting involved with Sebastian Cross was dangerous, that their worlds were too different, that he was too damaged. But looking into his eyes, she saw hope flickering like a candle flame in the wind. One dinner, she agreed. When Rosa is well. Sebastian smiled, and for the first time it reached his eyes. One dinner. The ride home was quiet, Emma's mind reeling from the evening's events. As the limousine pulled up to her apartment building, she realized that everything had changed. Not just because Rosa would receive treatment, but because she had glimpsed something in Sebastian Cross that no one else had ever seen. His vulnerability, his capacity for growth, his desperate hunger for genuine human connection. As she climbed the stairs to her apartment, Emma wondered if she had just made a terrible mistake or the best decision of her life. Only time would tell which it would be. 3 months later, Emma stood in Rosa's hospital room, watching her grandmother take her first steps since the surgery. The experimental treatment had worked beyond the doctor's wildest expectations. The cancer was in complete remission, and Rosa's strength returned more each day. Mia, you're crying again, Rosa said, settling back into her chair with a gentle smile. Emma wiped her eyes, laughing. Happy tears, abuela. I'm just so grateful you're okay. This miracle didn't happen by accident, Rosa said knowingly. Someone helped us. Someone with deep pockets and deeper reasons. Emma had told Rosa about Sebastian's generosity, but had kept the more complicated details to herself. Rosa was too wise to believe it was simply charity from a stranger. He was hurting too, Emma said simply. Helping you helped him heal something inside himself. And you? Did he help heal something inside you? Emma considered the question. Over the past 3 months, Sebastian had called twice just to check on Rosa's progress. Their conversations had been brief but meaningful. He was seeing a therapist, he had told her. He was trying to rebuild his relationship with his estranged half-sister. He was learning to be human again, maybe Emma admitted. Rosa reached for her hand. "This man, he means something to you." "It's complicated, abuela. The best things usually are." That evening, Emma's phone rang. Sebastian's name appeared on the screen, and her heart jumped as it always did when he called. "How is she?" he asked without preamble. "Walking, laughing. Driving the nurses crazy with her demands for real Mexican food instead of hospital cafeteria meals." Sebastian's laughter was warm and genuine. "She sounds like a force of nature. She wants to meet you," Emma said before she could stop herself. Silence stretched between them. Finally, Sebastian spoke. "Emma, about that dinner we discussed." "You want to cancel?" Emma said, trying to keep the disappointment from her voice. "No," Sebastian said quickly. "I want to do it properly. I want to take you somewhere special. But first, I want to meet Rosa. I want her blessing." Emma's heart skipped. "Sebastian, you don't need to." "Yes, I do. She raised you. If I'm going to pursue something real with you, I need her approval." "Pursue something real?" Emma repeated, her voice barely a whisper. "Emma, these past 3 months have been the longest of my life. Every day I didn't see you, every conversation that ended too soon. I've been in therapy, working on myself, trying to become the kind of man who might deserve your love. I'm not there yet, but I'm trying." Emma felt tears welling up. "Sebastian, I know it's crazy. I know we're from different worlds. But what we found that night in my house, that connection, it was real. It was the most real thing I've ever experienced. I can't let it go without trying." "The man who offered to buy me for a night wants to date me properly now?" Emma asked, but there was no anger in her voice, only wonder. "That man was a coward hiding behind his wealth," Sebastian said quietly. "I'm trying to be braver now. You taught me that some things can't be bought. They have to be earned." Emma closed her eyes, remembering that night 3 months ago when she had seen past his coldness to the wounded man beneath. "When do you want to meet her?" "Tomorrow, if she's up for it. I'll bring flowers. Probably beg her forgiveness for ever putting you in that position." "She already forgives you," Emma said softly. "She says anyone who saves her granddaughter's life can't be all bad, and you?" Sebastian asked. "You forgive me?" Emma thought about everything that had brought them to this moment. The desperation, the impossible choice, the unexpected compassion, the slow bloom of something deeper than either of them had expected. "I forgave you that night," she said, "when you chose to be better than your worst impulses." The next day, Sebastian arrived at the hospital carrying roses and wearing an expression of nervous determination Emma had never seen on him before. He had traded his expensive suits for simple jeans and a sweater, looking younger and more approachable. Rosa took one look at him and patted the chair beside her bed. "Sit, mijo. Let me get a good look at the man who saved my life." Sebastian sat, his usual confidence nowhere to be found. "Mrs. Rodriguez, I owe you an apology. Call me Rosa, and you owe me nothing. You gave me more time with my granddaughter. It's priceless. I put Emma in an impossible position. I used her desperation against her. That was unforgivable." Rosa studied his face with the penetrating gaze that had always seen through Emma's childhood lies. "But you didn't go through with it. When the moment came, you chose kindness over cruelty. That tells me who you really are." "I'm still figuring out who I really am," Sebastian admitted. "Good," Rosa said firmly. "A man who thinks he has nothing left to learn is dangerous. A man who knows he's still growing is worth investing in." Emma watched the exchange with amazement. Rosa had always been an excellent judge of character, but seeing her accept Sebastian so readily filled Emma with hope. "I want to take Emma to dinner," Sebastian said. "With your permission." Rosa laughed. "She's 26 years old, mijo. She doesn't need my permission. She has my blessing, if that's what you're asking for." That evening, Sebastian took Emma to a small family-owned Mexican restaurant in her neighborhood. No fancy suits, no expensive wine, no show of wealth. Just two people sharing enchiladas and getting to know each other without the weight of desperation and moral complexity between them. "This is perfect," Emma said, looking around at the colorful walls covered in family photos and folk art. It's not exactly what a billionaire's first date is supposed to look like, Sebastian said with a self-deprecating smile. Good. I never wanted to date a billionaire. I wanted to date Sebastian. Just Sebastian. Sebastian reached across the table, taking her hand. I love you, he said simply. I know it's too soon to say it. I know we still have things to figure out, but I needed you to know. What I feel for you isn't gratitude or fascination or some kind of savior complex. It's love. Real, terrifying, life-changing love. Emma squeezed his hand. I love you too. You're right. It is terrifying. Worth it, though? Emma looked into his eyes, seeing not the cold billionaire who had propositioned her months ago, but the man who had chosen compassion over cruelty, who was working every day to be worthy of the love he had found. Definitely worth it. 6 months later, Emma stood in Rosa's kitchen, teaching Sebastian how to make tamales for Christmas dinner. He was terrible at it, getting more masa on himself than on the corn husks. But he was laughing and trying and filling the small kitchen with joy. Rosa watched from her chair, her eyes bright with health and happiness. Mia, she called to Emma, this one's a keeper. Sebastian looked up from his mangled tamale, his face covered in flour. Does this mean I passed the test? With flying colors, Emma said, kissing his cheek. As they worked together, Emma reflected on the strange journey that had brought them here. It had started with desperation and a morally bankrupt offer. It had nearly ended with shame and regret. But somehow, in the space between cruelty and kindness, they had found something neither of them had been looking for. They had found love. Not the kind that could be bought or sold, but the kind that transformed broken people into something whole. Sebastian wrapped his arms around Emma from behind, resting his chin on her shoulder. Thank you, he whispered. For what? For seeing who I could be instead of who I was. For believing I was worth saving. Emma leaned back against him, feeling the solid warmth of his presence. Thank you for proving me right. Outside. Snow began to fall on the city, covering the harsh edges of the urban landscape in gentle white. Inside the small kitchen, surrounded by the people who mattered most, Emma realized that sometimes the most beautiful love stories began in the darkest places. Sometimes, the best things in life couldn't be bought at any price. It could only be given freely, received gratefully, and treasured always. The E&D liked this video if the story touched your heart. Subscribe for more emotional tales, and share with someone who believes in the power of true love. And let us know in the comments. We love connecting with our global community of romance lovers.